So I want to talk about another compatibility point. This is a compatibility of communication. And these two are drawn to each other because of that communication understanding. So being communication is an important part of why we partner up, why we connect. This can then become a really integral part into attraction or why a relationship will work. So without further ado, we are talking about Mercury in the third house and a Gemini Mercury. Now, obviously, you can do Mercury in Virgo as well because both of these signs are ruled by Mercury, but I'm going to keep it with the fact that there's some similarities here. Now, the Mercury in the third house doesn't have to be Gemini. This can be any sign that's in there. It already has the connection of Mercury and Gemini because of the house. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the house is completely the same as Gemini, but there are some crossover influences that are similar. So the third house is all about communication, how we communicate. This can be in writing form, in speaking, any number of things. It's also to do with siblings, and it can be another one of those houses where there can be manipulation or hidden enemies. It isn't the same as the 12th house, but there can be, I guess, like chameleonism, people being manipulative or not being able to, I suppose, be direct in their communication. But in the sake of this particular video about compatibility, we're going to go about it in terms of the cerebral, the areas of the mind, the areas of communication, and how we are able to connect and converse with one another. Now, the other person, so one person has their Mercury in the third house. The other person has Gemini Mercury, and that can be in any house. It doesn't make any difference. These two feel like they are instantly understood by one another. Instantly. So this can be the third house person can have Scorpio here. They can have Sagittarius here. They can have anything. It's not going to make any difference. It's very much about this combination leads to these two wanting to talk, wanting to connect by communication. And they have an understanding of communication that probably nobody else does with them. So there's the desire to share, to share their thoughts and feelings. Now, if there's issues with maturity or emotional intelligence, this could pose a problem. If this has signs involved in it, like obviously the Gemini Mercury, that one already has its sign worked out. But the third house person, if this is a sign that is quote unquote not comfortable with communication, there's issues and friction here, or there's immaturity or emotional lack of understanding. This can create tension in terms of communication. But by and large, overall, these two want to talk to one another. And they have that set understanding that, for the most part, unless it's, like I said, a sign is in there that creates difficulty, they will understand each other. This could be like excitement in terms of they want to talk about all the things in life, like the other one person is highly curious. I mean, I think they both would be curious, but I feel like the one who'd be the most curious is probably going to be the Gemini Mercury. This person will have lots of questions to ask. They want to know everything about this Mercury in the third house. They want to know all of their thoughts, all of their desires, and they're highly curious. And this could get to the point where, loads and loads of questions can be asked. Now, again, it depends on what sign is in there. If it happens to be Gemini, they would probably be really, really attracted to each other. And neither one of them would mind. In fact, it would be a back and forth bunch of questions. Both would have questions for one another. And that would be the spark of excitement. If it's a sign that doesn't like being questioned, like Scorpio, for instance, they like to ask questions. They don't particularly like to be questioned. It again depends on the maturity and what that Scorpio has been through. If they're immature in this area and they've been through a lot and maybe there were questions that led to problems, this will cause a communication breakdown. This will cause suspicion, deception, hiding, lies, things like this. Which of course is a shame because that's probably going to hurt or I guess be an anti-excitement, anti-attraction to the Gemini Mercury. This is important, and I think if we're talking about maybe a Sagittarius in the third house with their Mercury there, this could be incredibly interesting. Even though it's not the same sign, they're both very interested in learning. They're both highly curious. I feel like this would create a really, really spicy dynamic because both would be about challenging one another and going on adventures and trying different things and experiencing them and how far that can go. In fact, I don't really see a lot of boundaries and barriers when it comes to this. This would be open communication all over and open exploration. Again, there's so many different variables that would go into this equation, but both people are drawn to each other because of it. It's so important when you look at a person who has a particular sign related to the planet or the asteroid or whatever. And then that particular person will be attracted or wanting the other person who has the house that connects to the sign. So it doesn't just have to be Mercury is my point. This can be any number of these placements. You just feel like you instantly know this person and you want to talk and be open. You feel like you can trust one another. You can trust one another with your opinions, with your insights, with your possibilities, because it's to do with communication. So you feel really, really seen in this combination. I can see it taking out the whole hidden enemy thing, because you really see one another. You see one another on a level that, look, some people might not be comfortable with this because this is people who can read patterns like a puzzle, especially a Gemini Mercury. They're so good at seeing the puzzles of people, of situations, of things. They probably have paid attention to all the patterns, all the words spoken, all the actions taken or not taken. And then if this becomes kind of like a mental game, kind of like a mental process of chess, intrigue and chameleonism, which of course could be incredibly fun. Again, if both people aren't going to be honest with one another, it will create a divide. If there's any fear involved or issues with being upfront and honest, even if one of them is this way, that could cause a rift in communication, which of course would pretty much send the connection into a standstill. But ultimately, both people, when they're ready, the understanding of one another is almost unspoken. You almost don't need to talk about it. They want to talk about it because it's fun, but you almost don't need to. You already know and can see this person. In the beginning, I think it's going to be really, really, really sexy. But I think if both people are not ready, they're not mature enough, or one person isn't, this could create problems between the two, which of course would be a shame. But ultimately, it's going to be a fun ride regardless. So I hope that was fun to explore with me because I enjoy these types of... I love overlays. I think they're really important when it comes to looking at two people and how they interact with each other. So the fact that it's a Gemini Mercury with someone who has Mercury in their third house, like that's going to be a strong compatibility point. Even if it is just for the short term. These two are just, they're going to want to be involved in each other somehow. But yeah, I'll see you for the next video.